If your strength and conditioning program is missing even one of these 6 things, you're not just leaving gains on the table, you're probably making it harder to get fitter, stronger, faster, and more resilient as a rugby player. These are the 6 non-negotiables of a proper rugby strength and conditioning program. I don't care if you're playing grassroots or chasing national team selection. If your training doesn't tick these 6 boxes, it's holding you back in some way. Who am I to tell you this? I'm TJ, I'm the guy behind Rugby Muscle. Rugby Muscle is dedicated to helping amateur rugby players rethink the way that they approach their strength and conditioning. And if you enjoy this podcast, if this is your first time here, make sure you hit subscribe, follow us along. If you've been here for a while, make sure that you drop a comment or give us a thumbs up. Let's do that on Spotify. Give us a 5-star review. I haven't had one in a while. We want to get from 100 to 200 5-star reviews. That would really help the show grow. And of course, one other way that you can help the show grow is by sharing it with a teammate. And so send it to them if they make their own strength and conditioning program, or even if they just take their strength and conditioning seriously. Send it to them. Make sure that they're ticking all 6 boxes as well. So let's break this down. I've tried to keep this as simple yet all-encompassing as possible. If your training during the year doesn't feature one of these 6 things, you're definitely missing out. And we'll start by looking at heavy strength work. This is number 1. This is the foundation. Yes, this is obvious. You are on Rugby Muscle. This should be no surprise to you. Yes, we want heavy lift. We want sets of 5, sets of 3s, that sort of type of range. We're lifting heavy weight. Could be squats, bench, deadlifts, but it could also be something completely different. This isn't a powerlifting program, it's a rugby strength and conditioning program. So pick what fits you and your body. Yes, taller people can still squat really well, but shorter people with really long femurs might have some issues with it. So it's up to you, it's up to what feels good to you, but we need to have some heavy work within there. Again, this shouldn't be a surprise to you. There are enough programs out there that just do fitness or just do explosive work or just do hypertrophy stuff, lots of sets of 10 and 12 and all that sort of nonsense, but that's not going to transfer to the pitch like real heavy strength work does. Now, a couple of things to sort of keep in mind here. Number 1, the goal is not just to add weight to the big 3 like it is in powerlifting programs. It's to get all around strong in different positions and patterns that matter. The big 3 are often done here for convenience, right? We're looking at lots of squat, bench, and deadlift for a lot of people's base of strength, but they don't have to be, as I've already mentioned. There are lots of other ways that you can build strength. So we're just looking at one heavy upper body push. It doesn't have to be the bench. One heavy upper body pull, which is not considered with most powerlifting programs, right? They're focused on squat, bench, and deadlift, and therefore pulling is almost like accessory. For rugby purposes, you want to get really strong at pulling. Really heavy pulling work is a must for rugby players. So we're looking at rows, pull downs, or my personal favorite is going to be getting really strong at pull-ups. Getting in weighted pull-ups regularly will skyrocket your rugby performance, will make you really strong in contact situations, in rucks, tackles, etc. It's going to help your squeeze, and that's something that rugby players must have within their strength and conditioning program. It's really important. Also, of course, we're going to have lower body lifts, but like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be squatting. It can be heavy reverse lunging, it can be heavy split squats, it can be heavy Romanian deadlifts. Those sorts of movements can all be rotated in throughout the course of your program. Second thing I want to note here is that the heavy work needs to be within the program, but it doesn't necessarily have to be at high volumes. Heavy volume can start to really break you down. It's fine, again, for the strength-orientated lifters that don't have to do speed work, that don't have to do conditioning work. You're not in that situation. You're not in the gym to prove how strong you are. You're in there to get the stimulus and then move on to all the other elements of your training program. And then finally, you don't want to be failing with these reps. You don't want to be grinding every rep out either. You want to be lifting with decent speed. Every single lift actually that you do should be done with the intention of moving the bar or the dumbbell or whatever as fast as possible. Eventually that speed is going to slow down just because of the pure weight, but once it starts to get grindy, that's when we want to be really sort of cautious and remember our intention, why we're in the gym. We're in the gym to become better rugby players, but also If you stay away from grindy reps, you're going to stay fresher, you're going to have more reserve and allow your body to recover better, to become stronger and stronger and stronger. This is perfectly highlighted by my guy Ian, who I will post on the YouTube video right now. He just hit a 20-pound PR with his squat and a 30-pound PR with his deadlift. Phenomenal lifting, and he's not been grinding it out. He's been working 75 to 85 to maybe 90% of his 1 rep max, and he's been moving the weight with proper intent, keeping it nice and explosive, keeping it nice and fluid, keeping himself fresh, and only hitting the heavy weights, I think 2 times a week. And he's been able to hit lifetime PBs, which is massive, and shows how this training doesn't just help you become the best rugby player, but also just helps you lift more weight, which in turn helps you become a better rugby player. But it's not the only lens that we're looking for. Second point that we want to look for within a rugby strength and conditioning program is low-level aerobic work, something that should be in year-round, along with the heavy strength work. So we've got 2 ends of the spectrum. We've got real heavy work on one end for 3 to 5 reps, and then we've got low-level aerobic work. This is the easiest to ignore, but it's also one of the biggest performance boosters that there is. And it takes a long time to get good, and the improvements keep on coming. I'm talking zone 2 work, tempo sprints, off-feet tempo intervals like biking or rowing. Even just 20 minutes a couple times a week can make a huge difference, and it stays in the program throughout. It helps you with your recovery, not just within the moment, like it's getting the blood flow around your body, but long term. The more aerobically fit you are, the better you're able to recover from all of your training, not just your training in the gym, but your training with your rugby. The faster you can recover from your matches, the more you're going to improve. This is going to keep your engine ticking over year round and stay leaner, of course, as well, because you're burning extra calories. But more importantly, it's just building that solid aerobic base that fuels everything that you're doing, not just on the rugby pitch, but on the training park. Everything that you're trying to do is boosted by getting in that low level aerobic work. It doesn't need to be complicated, but it does need to be in the program basically year round because of how beneficial it is. And then one final reason I love to have it in there is simply because it doesn't cost you anything other than time. Right, you have to do it, but it doesn't give you loads of fatigue that's going to affect your subsequent sessions. It gives you better aerobic capacity, better recovery, everything that you could possibly want. And this has been shown time and time and time again by the athletes that are skeptical when they come in about this low level work and how they're able to get through so much more as a result. And I've done enough about zone 2 and low level aerobic work on the channel, so go check that out if you want to see. Number 3, the third part that should be in your program, power and speed work. Again, another really underrated and underutilized part of most amateur rugby players' training, because they don't see it from the pros, because the pros do it as part of their rugby sessions. For you guys that are only training rugby twice a week, you can't spend your rugby sessions working on your power and your speed. Instead, you need to do that as part of your S&C, either in the gym or on the pitch on your own before your training. We're talking plyometrics, throws, potentially lighter barbell lifts, and of course, sprints. There's a full force velocity spectrum that we want to be training here, from power cleans and weighted jumps, like the heavier work that's it's still fast, but it's not as fast as sort of real fast max intentional plyometrics or max velocity sprints, right? That's where we're going as fast and as powerfully, and we're working the speed end. When we're looking at power, it's force times speed. So if we're looking at speed, one end, force, like strength, etc., weight, the other end. We want to work across that spectrum. So we want to do some heavier stuff explosively, and we want to do really light stuff as fast as possible. And you don't need to do everything at once. Most of the time, you'll just be rotating through these through the week or through different phases of your training. As a rule of thumb, usually sprint work is best kept during the season or during pre-season, or maybe even pre-season to prepare you for the pre-season. I know that sounds complicated, it's really not. But that's really when you need to sprint fast, and that's when you need to get exposure for your body to get used to sprinting fast, so that not only does it move faster, but you're also more injury resilient. But if you do have a real long off season, there are times definitely throughout that you can absolutely omit sprinting. It would be the only thing that I could potentially look to omitting at any point during the year from this list. That's why I've coupled speed and power work together, because power work would still be in there. And if you're considering speed as part of your power work, brilliant. Then I've managed to sort of tick this box and sort of get this into this list that way without sort of stipulating that, although I've just stipulated it. But you get the point. Power work should be in the program year round, even if you're doing only hypertrophy phases. There's so much to be gained from getting it explosive, getting powerful, and developing that throughout your program throughout the year. It's definitely worth keeping in. And then obviously that will give you more benefits when you go back to your speed work, particularly if you're doing quality lower body plyometrics and lower body power work as well. Now, real quick, if this is all clicking together and you're thinking, yeah, but how would I actually put this all together? That's where Team Rugby Muscle could potentially come in for you. We've built a system with over 20 different programs, all 6 of these hallmarks: strength, power, speed, aerobic work, extra stuff to come that I'm not going to spoil. It's all adapted to suit you, your goals, your situation, and your actual life. So if you want a program that gets this done for you and you don't have to do any of the thinking, you can just plug and play. Team Rugby Muscle is your solution, the link for which will be in the description below, along with a way for you to apply it for Rugby Muscle one-on-one coaching, so you don't have to even choose a program. I will write it out specifically for you, and I'll keep you accountable and help you along the way, guiding you through the entire process. So check those out in the links in the description below. And back to it. Number 4, we're looking at moving through all different planes. Let me say this really clearly so that you understand. On the pitch, you're going to move in all different directions. You're going to go up, down, you're going to go left, forward, backwards, you're going to rotate. In the gym, most people just go up and down. Now, sure, most of your strength work actually should be like this because you're sort of resisting gravity, and that's the way it works. That's the way you can build your muscles up to be stronger, to apply force and etc. But you still need to move laterally. You need to rotate. You need to stabilize different movements. You need to change direction, driving off of your one leg or the other leg. You need to absorb force with your upper body to help you with collisions. You need to project into different directions. All of this stuff should be considered at some point through your program. So what we're looking at is rotation and anti-rotation. We're looking at lateral movement as well. So maybe lateral lunges, Cossack squats, moving from side to side, speed skater hops. You're moving from side to side. This means that you need to teach your body to rotate and also to resist rotation. You need to teach your body to move as forcefully and as rhythmically in different directions from side to side or at 45-degree angles, or to change direction. You need to teach your body to go forward and backwards efficiently, either off of one leg or off of both. You need to understand the forces that are applying to the ground in order to project you in those different directions and train the muscles to do so. You need to gauge your feet, your hips, your core, and build real athleticism by moving the body. Now, this doesn't necessarily need to dominate the program. A lot of people that are promoting overly functional stuff and they don't actually do any of the heavier lifts, or they don't do, like, they're all promoting move like an athlete in the gym. You have to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt, because as a real athlete, you're actually getting a lot of your movement, a lot of your athletic development, and a lot of your skill development on the rugby pitch. You don't necessarily need to attach a cable machine to your wrist and pretend to pass to get stronger at the pass. You just need to practice passing. You could also then still benefit from getting stronger with rotations, and it is going to be factored into the program. It just doesn't need to dominate everything. It's just something that needs to be considered when you're in the gym with your S&C work. This is something that I saw firsthand with Fitchy. I mentioned him in the last podcast, and he is been interviewed a good few years back now. He was someone that took the gym really seriously, but if you watched him move around the rugby pitch, he was like a little dump truck. Like, his turning radius was real wide. He wasn't very good at stepping. He wasn't very good at getting real low for his tackles. He was strong, so you couldn't have got in front of him in a maul because he would have just shoved you back. But when it comes to the dynamic nature of rugby, he really did sort of struggle. And it was once he came on with Rugby Muscle, I coached him, I saw the leaks in his energy and in his program, and we started working on this sort of stuff. And I remember firsthand, he was the first person that ever came to me and said, I really didn't realize that in the gym, you could train to better your ability to get lower and to hit better tackles from a better position. And that's just part of athletic training, right? And it's something that you have to consider through your program. Next, we're going to move on to number 5, which is going to be planned progressions and a phasic structure. You're not going to be able to fit everything in all at once. And even if you did have unlimited time, your body still is just not going to recover from it all. That's why you need a phasic structure. That's why you need a program that builds from A to B to C to D to E all the way through to Z. Not Z for you Americans, Z. Progress should be deliberate, and certain things are going to need to be left out of the program at certain periods of time. That's probably one of the key parts of a program, is figuring out what to leave out rather than what to put in, because there's so many different options, as you I'm sure are aware of, that you could add into a program. The real genius of strength and conditioning is all of the things that you can take away that can get covered or you can leave for later. Too many guys try to do everything all at once, end up spinning their wheels, plowing themselves with volume, and then end up burning out. The best programs will zoom all the way out. They'll look at where you are right now, where you want to be over the long term, and then they're going to bridge that with several different phases in order to get to where you want to be. And even all of those several different phases will have smaller phases within that. Some of them could be just one training week or even one training session. Each component fits into the overall bigger picture, which allows you to train really freely, knowing that you're going to get real good results without having that FOMO of the things that you are missing out on, because you have no choice. You are going to have a trade-off. You're going to have to miss out on some components of your training, and that's going to actually benefit you. That's actually how you milk out better gains over the long term, is by not cramming in as much as you can into every single week. It's by getting a good stimulus every single week and stacking those weeks on weeks on weeks on weeks. That's how people can get phenomenal results in the long run. And we're looking at my clients, like I could think of Kirsten, who trains usually 2 or 3 times a week at most, but we're not getting FOMO. We're focusing on everything that she can possibly do within that time, and she's managed to hit PRs with squats, deadlifts, bench press. She's able to do her first pull-up. Now she can do multiple pull-ups. She's able to do her zone 2 work for up to and over 90 minutes for a single session. This is from years ago where she wasn't able to do any of this stuff. And rather than having to look at the short term, what's the maximum that we can do for this week and eventually always lead to burnout, we've looked at a real long-term approach as to how many weeks can we stack up just small wins on wins on wins on wins and stay consistent with that. And now we've got to a point where she is now a phenomenal rugby athlete and well within her 30s. And with that, I'm kind of led perfectly into the 6th and final hallmark of a real quality strength and conditioning program, and that is something that you're not going to find in the vast majority of sports science or training textbooks, but it's something that is crucial if you're going to succeed and get the most from your strength and conditioning, and that is logistical considerations. Look, there is no perfect program. It doesn't exist. It's a fugazi. It's a fugazi. It's fairy dust. It is no matter. It doesn't exist. There is no perfect program. What is real, what is something that you have to pay attention to, is adherence. What you can actually stick to. And the more convenient a program is, the more likely it's going to be stuck to and enjoyed. Even if someone grinds out a program for a couple months because they're overly disciplined and because, I don't know, they have no other life, they're sacrificing everything and they really want this, still going to have worse results than someone that is loving their training, enjoying it, getting amped up because it fits their life perfectly and they're able to do everything else within it and not just #grind all of the time. So we have to place a massive emphasis on logistics. What equipment do you have? How many days can you realistically train? When do you have rugby or work or travel or other considerations that you have to have within your week? Maybe you're playing touch rugby or another sport for fun. Maybe you're doing gym and sprint work before a rugby session just because that is the most easy way for you to manage your work, your rugby and your family life, and not be a full-time rugby athlete without being a full-time rugby athlete. That's fine. We take those and we take a small trade-off with maybe not getting the perfect result, but we might get 80 or 90 or even 95% of the gains, but we get way more consistency, we get way more enjoyment, and we get way more intent through those sessions because of all of those things, and therefore we get better results. All of that stuff matters way more than fancy perfect Excel sheets with perfect percentages, and a smart coach and a smart athlete knows how to make those adjustments accordingly. And that's something that I really think that you have to consider when it comes to making your training program. It's not done on paper. And that's why you can't copy anyone else's program. It's why I've got over 20 different programs within Team Rugby Muscle. It's the best way I could do it, and I've got even more coming up. That's why my main thing is one-on-one coaching, because I think that is the best way as a rugby athlete that you're able to get a program that will give you the most from your strength and conditioning, give you most from the time that you're giving up, and allow you to get the most from yourself on the rugby pitch. So, a quick recap. The 6 hallmarks of a really good strength and conditioning program for rugby is going to be: number 1, heavy strength work; number 2, low level aerobic work; number 3, power and speed work; number 4, movement across all planes; number 5, a phasic structured progression within that program; and then 6, logistical considerations. Miss one of those things and you're going to be leaving gains on the table. Nail all 6 of those and you're now a serious athlete. No matter what level you play, you're not just someone that lifts, you are a rugby athlete. If you want even more clarity on how this all ties together for you as an amateur rugby athlete, I would encourage you to check out the free 5-day Rugby Athlete Blueprint. Or if you want to completely outsource all of it to Rugby Muscle, links to how you can work with me properly on our program will be in the description below, as I've already mentioned. So check that stuff out. If this episode helped, send it to a teammate, help them. Give us a 5-star review on Spotify, or just hit thumbs up on YouTube. Let me know what thoughts you have in the comments, or just drop a comment with any questions that you have. I'll make them into future videos. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.